Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I use alcohol markers and color pencils to illustrate this little comic that I'm working on. This is the next 2 frames of my 5-frame comic, and the last 2 were in a previous video, and if I could figure out how to link it, I would link it. And if I can get my sister to help me, you'll see it show up. So if you saw it show up, that's because she helped me. I'm starting off with a new color in the color palette that I'm using for this whole project, which is a brown. I didn't have trees in the previous 2 frames, so I didn't need brown, but they're getting more like complicated images, so I'm gonna have to add a few more colors to my quote-unquote limited color palette. But that's okay. So what I'm doing with the markers right now essentially is just laying down a little bit of color, and then the real detail is going to come in when I do all of the color pencil. So I just want to get a general idea, kind of blend the colors in as best as I can, but I'm not going to stress too much about what's happening with the markers. I'm not going to go into great detail about it. But what I do make sure that I do with the markers every time is go with the grain of the texture of the object that I'm drawing. I hope that makes sense. But like if you see how I'm drawing bark, I'm never going to go lengthwise when I'm doing that because the bark goes up and down. So I'm going to try and keep that because it's also a small image. So I need to kind of be choosing the way that I'm doing every single stroke, you know? And the touch marker is really good. That lighter color was really good at blending that. So then I was like kind of getting hyped because I realized, ooh, it's going to be nice and blendy. And I can fade it down, which is what I really wanted to do. But I always have a hard time doing that with the OHUHU markers. So I'm like, ooh, okay. And I don't need too many colors. I really kind of stick with always the same color scheme. So I'm really happy that I picked this marker up because I only picked up a few of those touch ones. And then I'm just adding this blue, kind of a nice light blue. Just wanted to get something going in the background there. This frame is the small hero taking the sad frog prince through the forest. And the forest is a little bit magical. It's a little misty. There's something weird going on. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, the color of the trees that are in the furthest distance. And I couldn't figure out, should I do like a really cool color? Should I do a green color? So I settled on a greenish brownish color that is dim green. And I just did some pretty loose little sketchy trees in the back just because I wanted to have more, and I wanted to look like the forest was a little deeper than it looked at the start, so that's why I did that. And then I took that same color and did the base of the grass with it, and I'm just trying to make sure that all the colors kind of are flowing throughout and they're not just one color in one place, you know? So I really am trying to focus on that. Did some shadows. I didn't want to go into too crazy detail because that frog is real tiny. It's probably like the size of my thumbnail or something. And then I started to use the color pencil to bring out the colors in the markers and start to enhance stuff. So I got a bright red color that's called Poppy Red, and I used that to brighten up the red. I use some greens, darken the shadows, and I always like to outline the shadows a little bit on the edge. So I took my brown Prismacolor pencil, did that, did some reflective light, and then this is my favorite part. I took this really bright greenish yellow color and I started to go from the ground level up in the distance of the forest just to make everything look like misty and weird. And I just really like that it's a neon color because I think that makes it look kind of magical and fun. And so I'm really, really happy with how that turned out. I went through the whole middle of the background with this peachy color, which is also in her skin. And then this pink color on top of the trees and throughout the trees because I didn't want it to just be plain brown. I wanted it to have the look that you're seeing a lot of colors happening while still obviously conveying the regular local colors of the objects. So I really, really enjoyed doing that. But yeah, the grass gave me a little bit of a hard time just because of the distance that it is in the image. I wasn't sure like how much detail to go into, and that is always my struggle. And that's pretty much the problem I have with leaves when I think about it. It's just like do you just do like the shadows of some of the leaves? Do you add many different colors? Like how much do you want to express of them? Because really it's not the center of the object of attention. So I I don't know how to stop myself from going too far with that yet, I would say. So, but yeah, this is my favorite color pencil from Prismacolor. I use it almost every illustration that I do. It's like a neon orange color, and I go really light-handed with it. You can see me going up in the trees, to kind of spreading it out throughout the image. I put it into her cheeks for her blush, and also the color I always use is this brown Prismacolor Color Erase pencil. It is so good. I use it every single time. I do all my line work with it. I love it so much. Can't say enough good things about it. Unfortunately, Prismacolor did stop selling individual color erase pencils, which is super annoying and cheap of them, frankly. Not cool. But I did go ahead and buy like 50 of the brown ones before that happened, because I was keeping my eyes out, keeping my ears to the ground, and I figured it out, okay? I talked to one art store employee one time. Anyways, so now I'm doing just a little outline on the top to kind of finish it off. I love how this looks. I think this one was my favorite one, but now I have to finish the very last one. While I'm doing this voiceover, I'm finishing the last one. I'm in the middle of it, so the last frame of these comics, I mean. So I think that one's going to be my favorite because it's turning out really good. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's happening. Anyways, so I take this blue, the same blue from before, again, sticking with the color palette, do the whole background, and then very lightly go over the back trees. This is a bigger image, obviously, because I wanted to show the swampiness, and I wanted to make it seem like it was a lot bigger than her, and it was a scary scene. And she's just tiny, but she's not scared of anything because she's a small little hero. So the Frog Prince is scared, though. He is sitting on her hat, gripping on for dear life. So I just started by coloring in these gators. And you know what I was kind of thinking about when I was doing this whole swampy scene was the princess and the frog, which I just love that movie so much. It's so good. And I just wanted to do that kind of like droopy trees, swampy vibe, but also still keeping it really colorful and still going with a neon misty vibe. Don't look at my phone. Anyway, so then I had to really look up like what the heck does swamp water even look like? Like, it's not clear, because I was doing, you can see this gator a little too, it was too defined under the water. And when I thought about it, when I went back and thought about when I was watching Swamp People obsessively when I was 14 years old with my dad, that is not, you can barely see the gators when they're coming out of there. So I realized I had to switch it up. So I did the gator. Luckily, alcohol markers, no problem with, you can just lift that right off. It's like you can keep layering them and everything. So I wasn't worried about it, but I just realized I need to switch it up a little bit. Then I needed to figure out what my lighting situation was going to be. If you know me, you know I love a good sunset. So I was like, well, let's keep it a little sunset-y, kind of get some orangey in here, that kind of vibe. So I started on the tree, which I was really intimidated by, but I really wanted to frame it up like that. And I wanted to also challenge myself, but I was scared because I really like how this comic is going. And I was super scared to F it up. So I just kind of did the same thing I would do with grass. As I was just saying, I took some warm greens, some cool greens, and then I took a cool-ish light blue for the reflected light kind of thing coming from under, and then I took a yellow to go through on top where the light would hit. And then I was like, I'll do the rest of the work with the color pencils. I can't be bothered. So I did a whole bunch of color pencil stuff and made it look misty and cool, and now I'm starting to like really like it. And then I was like, no, I started to look at some reference pictures, needed more leaves and dangly bits. And another thing that happens is if you put marker over top of color pencil, it's going to blend the color pencil more. And if you put a darker color, it's going to show up, the marker will show up a little darker than it would over other marker, if that makes sense. So that was kind of nice because I was able to control the darkness and the colors a little bit more. See there, I'm like, see, it all worked out, no problem. So I'm really happy with how this turned out, especially because like I said, this is basically the first tree I've ever fully like rendered out and worked on. So I'm pretty happy with it. I think it has a pretty good amount of detail to not focusing too much because of how it's like blurry. around the edges, but you can also tell that there's quite a bit going on. So I don't know, I think it was pretty good practice, and I'm happy that I did it. And I love the little leaves, and I think they're the perfect distance away. Like, I think that they're just tiny enough, you know? And there's that little snake in the tree. I don't know, I got a pretty good reception here at home from that snake. People seem to like it, and I didn't know it was such a big deal, but that's all that they were commenting on. So I was like, okay, I guess that's cool. So now I'm trying to pick a color with these swatch sheets for a sort of sunsetty pinky color that I can add to the sky. Oh yeah, baby. So then I picked the matching Holbein pencil with this kind of cherry blossomy, that's sort of the name of the colors that I was looking at, kind of just a really, really light pink. And put that in the water as well for reflection and just to keep adding color. I just wanted everything to be super colorful, you know me. So I added that into the top, right underneath where the tree ends there. And I'm going to add a little bit more of a blue connecting the water to where the sky starts. And then I'm using my Holbein pencil that I had picked out, and I just went through there, and I'm just slowly layering everything up, really. I got bored of that after a while and started doing the trees. Because it does like take a long time to cover such a big area. And if I'm perfectly honest, that's why I kind of do a lot of smaller images, because simply I get bored sometimes. But I did have fun doing this one. It just takes a long time. I had to be really careful with how I did these background trees because I really wanted them to look more further away. But with that, like I said, that touch whatever brush alcohol marker that I was trying out, it blended really well. So I was like, oh, okay, sick. I actually don't have to worry about this at all. So then I put the more sketchy trees in the back to do more distance. And then this is where you get that misty look, is where you take a very highly saturated color pencil, high saturated light color, and lightly layer it. And I just keep going over very, very light touch. And if you want to make it more, you just go over it more times, but keep the same light hand throughout. You know what I'm saying? That way you don't mark the paper up too much, and it just, I don't know, it just looks better that way. Just going slow and light-handed. And I made sure to bring all of these colors in through everywhere, as I keep saying. But I just want to make it known that I wanted this sucker to be unified. And I think I did a pretty good job of making it unified. Like, you can see those colors coming up everywhere. And I think that's why I like it so much. So, and I know that you can still see the gator a lot right now, but just wait till the end, okay? I fix it. I don't make the water that see-through. The other thing that I really liked about this was the reflection from the trees in the water, as you'll see how I do them later. I really didn't know how to do water very well at all, is what I figured out by doing this. And I had to learn on the spot because I was like, oh wait, I don't know how to do this. And then but I don't want to ruin this drawing. So I had to look up a lot of references on my phone of like sunsets, swamps, what does the swamp look like? What kind of swamps here and where? And then that made me kind of freak out and have to think about everything, but no, it all worked out, and it was a really good lesson for me to learn. And also, be more prepared. Hey, be more prepared next time, okay? There we go. Now I have faded it out a little bit at the bottom, and that is just the perfect amount that I wanted the gator to be seen. I put a couple gators in the background. You can barely tell that they're there once you look up close. I took my white Faber-Castell pen, which you know I love if you know me. It's awesome. It's like a little bit of paint or whatever in there, and I put the first little bits of highlights. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let those suckers dry down, and then I'm going to go over them with my neon, that same neon color I had put in the tree, the greenish one, and the same one I put in the other frame for the mist. I'm going to use that green color and put it over top of the Faber-Castell dried down marker. It works great. So then you kind of have like an extra neon touch to it. And I will go over it again with actual white once I'm done and I want all the highlights to come out, but I was just kind of finishing up here. So then I took my, again, neon Prismacolor pencil, absolutely love it, just adding some color, putting the reflections in. I really like how those lily pads turned out too. I learned a lot of valuable lessons doing this, and I really hope that you guys like this video as much as you liked my last video, even though I'm not doing painting and I don't feel like I'm messing up as much because I actually do know a lot about markers. I feel like at least my skill is better with doing stuff like this than it is with paint because I've been using it for a long time. So I hope that's okay. Anyways, what a weird thing to say. So now I'm doing the snake, and I kind of didn't ever know how to do a snake and didn't like to look up references, frankly, because I'm scared of snakes and I can't even look at them, even pictures of them, because they scare me so much. So I just kind of guessed. I know generally how their bodies look and how you're like, obviously they've got, I don't know, one long bone in there. I don't venture to guess what snakes are doing. It's not really my business. And I just wanted to make sure there was neon colors in there. And just touched up the little outfit. She was so tiny. You can see my hand there. Like, the frog was minuscule. And so it was tough to get too much detail in, but you get it. So then I took, again, my little Faber-Castell white pen and just tried to put the highlights where I wanted them. I didn't want to go too crazy. White highlights can be tough. You can go too crazy sometimes, and that can really get you if you do too much. But this one's pretty good. You can kind of scratch it off, or like I said, go over top with a color and it'll be fine. That's why I like it. But you know, I still wanted to be careful. So just a little tiny bit in the trees just to make sure the white is brought throughout the whole thing. And just a little extra touches of shadows because I couldn't really put the pencils down with this one. I was really liking kind of noodling around with it and finishing it up. And I loved how the roots of the trees looked and how everything looked like, they all looked like lumpy. So I wanted to bring that out a little tiny bit more with just a nice brown. And of course I needed to do some more mistiness. I just wanted to like accentuate where the main focus was by highlighting it with that color. And that's pretty much it. After this, I was finished, and I'll just show you the first two frames of the comic in case you missed them. There's the sad and lonely frog. The small hero finds him and decides to help him, and then she lugs him through the forest and has to bring him through the treacherous swamp, but it's not a problem because the gators are actually scared of her, so she tells them where to go. See you next week. Bye!